Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah. I don't know for sure if I'm going to upload, but I just like to record it.
Yeah, for sure. It's good to have the option.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. So you're like a professor of psychology?
I am, yeah.
How's
Yep.
that?
It's half of it I really love, and half of it I find very challenging. Like I love being in front of the students, I love teaching, I love um, all of that. And then I'm really struggling with like the administrative, like emails and research and that aspect of it. But I'm in a pretty good position. I'm in a visiting position. So it's mostly just teaching and not so much the research aspect of things. So it's good. It's good. It's the same place where I got my PhD from. So I've been teaching there a lot. So I have a lot of leeway. So I'm teaching psychology of mindfulness and like psychology of religion and
Hmm.
basically just like using all of my classes as an excuse to like get mindfulness and non-duality in the back door.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so that part's very fun.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been teaching, I've been out, I graduated like 2 or 3 years ago, and then I think it took me like 7-ish years to do the PhD. So
Wow.
yeah, I've been at it for a while.
Oh, holy moly.
It's not recommended.
7 years. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah. Pretty brutal, pretty brutal.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you like to read and you like you know, all of that, it could be okay, but I wouldn't be able to do that.
I mean, the thing that's hard is that there's so much, like there's so little of the things that you expect it to be. Like there's so little like reading and intellectual like growth and development and stimulation, and so much more like, I don't know, hard to pin down anxieties and pressures and stressors and like just work for work's sake. That you're
Yeah.
all, yeah, but anyway.
Mm, yeah. Cool.
Just
Yeah, if there's stuff you want to talk about, I'm open to
yeah,
hear.
thanks. I mean, I don't really have any questions left. You know,
Okay. Yeah, we
like
can just talk about random stuff then.
yeah, I really, I've the algorithm's been suggesting different non-dual teachers and like one after the other, and like each one just seems to really perfectly resonate with whatever exactly I need like at that moment. And
Mm,
like just your presentation, I think really clicked for me in that it was so sort of like not just like clear and heartfelt, but I think maybe I was noticing that some of the other teachers have, or not teachers, but you know, their presentation has an an element of like madness behind the eyes, kind of, right? Like where you can tell that like they're not that there's something there, right? And I think that
there? What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think like I think it was I think I could pick up on, or it felt not I guess it felt different or like not ordinary, or like if I was like
Mm,
not passing them in the street but like talking to them, I'd be like, oh, like you've got it, like that's awesome, like I want like that. Or but I think I have this fear of that too, of like being being other, or um
yeah. Do you feel like I was more approachable because I kind of talk about normal stuff too.
yeah, I feel like you were not just more approachable but like able to convey it or present it in a way that doesn't, that like slips like past any I don't know, antenna of like, you know, like, ooh, like it just like slips under and like goes right to the heart of it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I try to, I mean, I don't try, but I'm just, this is so ordinary.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I know there's no one here, but there's still this appearance of this person that's totally pretty. It's not the same. There is a difference, but pretty much like, this apparent person is still doing everything pretty much that any other apparent person would do. And, seeming relationships happen, and it is different in the sense that when there's no one here, you can't see anyone in any human body. So there is a difference, but everything still continues the same, like everything I would say is kind of similar from before. Like if agitation was there before, it might be weaker now, but I'll still have an outburst.
Mhm.
It's just no one doing it, but an outburst can happen. Crying can happen. um Grief can happen. It's just all not happening to a person or to a center.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. It's so ordinary. This is the end of specialness. The person thinks that they're special in some way, even if it's like you're higher than or lower than,
Mhm.
but this is the end of that. This is like there is no one anywhere, and there's no like value, and there's no, I mean, so you can say nothing is special or everything is equally special.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So how do you like mesh psychology with this type of non-duality where it's a bit more uncompromising?
Great question. I have a lot of issues with psychology. I think like pretty much it gets almost everything wrong. And my training is qualitative psych, so more interested in sort of like subjectivity than objectivity. So I've been able to sort of like carve out a niche of like doing research and teaching that feels a little bit more authentic, sort of like taking the human subjectivity at the level of subjectivity rather than like externalizing it and objectifying it and turning it into an object and doing science the way that we do for like the natural sciences, like physics or biology or chemistry, right? Like it's out there, we're over here, right? Let's study it that way. Um, so I mean, at this point, I've got pretty well down like my spiel to students in terms of like, this is a certain way of knowing that comes from certain philosophical underpinnings and the, enlightenment thinking. And here's what I think is a better approach and how first person subjectivity comes into it and how we can sort of tune into our own body and our own senses and our own consciousness and use that as the method of analysis and the method through analysis. And that is, I think, already a pretty radical step for a lot of students and a lot of people and a lot of psychologists. And I feel like, the difference between only living in your head and objectifying everything and sort of like recognizing the whole body and subjectivizing things is like, let's say 60 or 70% in a good direction,
Mm,
right? And like, I feel like I'm okay with my work being like that for most classes, most people, like if they come away with that, like I'm thrilled.
yeah.
And then I have the opportunity with some of my more advanced classes to like push it even further and like, okay, let's actually like, whether I call it uncompromising non-duality or like whatever language, right? Like, let's like look into who am I? What is this? Where are your stories catching you up, right? And like try to provide some pointers around like that's a story, like that's coming from here, that's coming from here. And just, I guess, trusting that like whatever seeds need to be planted, or, you know, people coming into connection with me to whatever, you know, and me learning from them and all of that. So I guess it feels like in my experience, like as once I sort of shifted onto this non-dual path, or was able to actually hear it, right? Like then everything is just happening as it's happening and like perfectly aligning. And so that's, there's the ego can at least like intellectually recognize that it's not doing that sometimes. And that I think, you know, where I'm stuck right now is like, all right, I can't do anything. And I know that I can't do anything. And I know that there's no one here and there's nothing doing anything. And yet the desire to feel like I need to do something is still really strong. And then just sort of like spinning my wheels of like, okay, like, well, let's try this. Like, I know that it's not working as I'm doing it. And like, I know that this isn't going to work, but I'm still sort of doing it. And like, that piece is very frustrating. So to answer your question, right? Like, I think just being present in the situation is like really what's moving along any sort of non-dual anything, but like, that's not up to me. So this is the part that I can do, right? Is enough to like help me sleep at night and stay in this field. And yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Have you been on a long spiritual path?
Yeah. A lot of, so it's hard to tell where to start, but I had cancer at 21.
Oh,
and
wow.
I was, you know, tangentially interested before then. Like when I was little, I used to beg my parents to go on to all those like head shops and like hippie stores and just like, you know, but then after that, I really started like meditating and found a couple of different forms of Buddhism. And I was like, this is it. This is what I've been looking for. Right. And then dove real head first into that. And then, and that helped me sort of like survive grad school. And then got into sort of shamanism and like plant medicine and ayahuasca and a little bit of mushrooms and like psychedelics and like that within a sort of tradition, and like ritualized. So then I was like, oh, this is what it is. Like, let me like all in on that. And then started working with a Lakota group, like Native American community, which was like still connecting with the spirits, but without the intermediary of any sort of medicine or substances. And I was like, oh shit, like this is what I've been like, oh, let me go. So jumping like pretty hardcore into, and I think that they were all this whole spiritual path, right? Like they were all aspects of something that I was like really deeply longing for. And at the beginning, it's like, oh, this is going to take me to the end, right? Like I finally found the path. And if I just do the path, like it'll get me there. And then luckily, I guess, being disillusioned like sooner and sooner each time that I've like found a different path. And then really the pandemic hit. And then I met someone and we like moved in together very quickly. And so during the pandemic, like the spiritual path has really just been like living with someone in relationship and all of that, and really dropped all my practices, all my communities. I was like, I don't got bandwidth for that. And then pandemic time has just been like really weird, like no sense of time, no sense of anything, order of operations, no idea. And then somehow found some non-dual talks on YouTube. I forget if it was Rupert Spear or someone, and then some other people, and then started listening. And then I had that sort of like non-dual video phase of just like all day, every day. Like I just need to like mainline these videos straight to my eyeballs. And, you know, talked to some people, had some one-on-ones, had a really sweet awakening experience, I think, through that for like a couple days, which of course makes when the meat comes back, it's so much more awful.
Craving it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's, I mean, that's pretty much where I am now, right? Like it's been some amount of time since that awakening, months, if not a year, something like that. And like, you know, still watching videos when called to, like meditating a little bit, still, you know, going about daily life, still very frustrated, like depression comes and goes. And sometimes it's fine and sometimes it's really rough. And that's, you know, that's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's really, it's fascinating how there is a memory of how much at least this person suffered. Like it was a lot, and
Mhm.
depression was pretty common.
Mhm.
And at a certain point, it was like the person's natural state was like sadness, kind of.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, so there is a remembering of it, but now in a weird sense, it erases everything.
Mhm.
It literally feels as if nothing ever happened. There was never a person, and it's shocking. It's like, how is that possible? So many years of like of agony, and then it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that really resonates, and like I know it to be true and feels true. And there's still that part that's like, oh, like, you know, I don't, it feels like I don't have that experience yet. And therefore, you know, off to the races.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. The me will continue as long as it continues, and there's no you can't say.
Or do or not say or
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. And even when you have like a desire to do something and stuff, you're not doing that either. That desire is just there.
yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of spiritual misconceptions that now I see.
Mm.
Literally everything arises, and there is no, I mean, I don't know, like detachment can I guess somewhat help the person. If it's like too much, like too intense,
Mm-hmm.
maybe taking a step back and trying to detach could create more peace and stuff like that. But like a real, what non-duality really is just like there is no self. It's such a radically different message than the person being detached. This is like there is no you.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I had I realized that with some of like the Buddhist teachings, right? Of like, oh, be compassionate, right? Like there's a difference between like be compassionate and compassion naturally arises, right? And if you're being compassionate, you're gonna have a bad time and like it's gonna cause more harm,
Mm.
right? But you can't, it's the phase or the stage or happening if it's happening. And
Yeah, yeah. I must say though, it does seem like everything that the person had tried, being compassionate, being more loving, being more patient, um, it's now, well, I don't know if it was partially just a natural character trait,
mm-hmm.
but it does seem like a lot of conditioning too that just still remains, like the habit of being compassionate or being patient, or uh it seems to linger. It seems to just be a habit now. No one's doing it, but it's still there, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But since it's not a person doing that, then the person isn't trying to get something out of it.
Right, right.
isn't trying to be liked, isn't trying to be actually it's interesting because so this apparent shift that never happened, it what was I gonna say? It's
Compassion, habit.
okay. So this person had a habit of trying to help people.
Mhm.
And it was really strong. It's probably one of the strongest conditionings
Mhm.
because it was since childhood, like, and so it's like 25 years or something of that. So that is still quite there. Um, and there can still be this sense of like a little bit of resistance toward it because
Mm.
there's this sense like I can't save anyone. I can't really help anyone because no one's there, and I everything's just happening. There isn't really a relationship. There isn't really two people. It's just this mysterious unknown interaction that's happening that can't be explained. And so that's been interesting to see that play out. And yeah, but it's also just what it is. So there isn't like a heaviness like, oh, I need to change this. It's just like kind of an interest, like, oh wow, this can still be really heavy even though no one is here doing anything, and there's a clear seeing that no one is there really suffering.
Mhm. Mhm. Is there a frustration aspect that comes up around the fact that there's still apparent suffering and still this apparent desire to help while the acknowledgement that like there's no one there and there's nothing that can be done anyway?
um yeah, I think so. Frustration can arise because um there caring arises.
Mhm.
Yeah, no one is here caring, but there is caring that arises, and this kind of like uh I don't know what word to use. It's not an attachment, but it's like a some sort of bond can still be made.
Mm.
It's
Mm.
not from person to person,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
it's like and it's not heavy. It's
Mhm.
not like a I own you or I owe this to you or
Mhm.
it's not as heavy like that. Before it might have been kind of,
Mhm.
but now there is there does seem to be this sense of like there could still be this mysterious bond and this caring that arises, and this frustration maybe out of conditioning and habit if the person is really seemingly suffering. um yeah, there's just compassion for that,
Mm. Mhm.
but there is like the desire to be a savior or to fix them is a lot less, like a
Mhm.
lot less.
Mhm.
Um, and it does seem like there used to be a tactic kind of like, how can I be there for them? Like, what's the best way to be like present with them or listen to them and what do they need? But now it's like, whatever, like, this is also just a story. This is a description, but what's sensed here is like whatever feels true is done, and there's no real narrative of like I need to do this because they need me to be present with them. It's just a natural happening that no one is doing, but it happens.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So I guess the narrative has weakened a lot. Even if it's there, it's not believed in or no one is claiming it. So it can be there, but that's not the ruling thing anymore, because the apparent body just does what it does, and no one is owning this. It's just doing. Yeah. Yeah. So one other thing, if uh I used to be really annoyed when I was really codependent with people.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So like overly helpful. Like I needed to be needed. So I helped people to be needed. I also enjoyed feeling needed. Um, but now the habits of that continue, but there's no one here who thinks that's bad and this is good. It's like if the so-called codependency happens, it's just what's happening, and it's not really evaluated, like this is not healthy for me, that shouldn't be happening. But there's also a sense that there's just a lightness to it anyways, like it's not really done to an extreme by itself, you know. um and there might be a sense that it might weaken over apparent time, but who knows. I could just, yeah, this apparent body could just remain codependent or something. Yeah, there's no saying, but yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. I do really like psychology too, and it's interesting. Yeah. I think I just find it fascinating to like compare it.
Yeah, to actual experience.
Yeah.
I think I do too. And I think I'm just so frustrated because it's so off so often. It's like, like this is how it works. And I was like, that's definitely not how it works. And, it's just so easy to get like lost in like the structure or the form or like the method or the way of doing things. And then like taking that to be reality, even if your own sort of like experience is different, like, oh, like I can't trust that, I have to trust this. Yeah, I'm probably overly harsh on it because I'm still traumatized from the PhD, but is it's yeah, it's awful. It's really bad.
PhD. Oh, your degree.
Yeah, sorry.
Traumatized by it.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. It's really rough.
Oh man. Yeah.
Can you maybe talk to or help me with like I'm really struggling with this work piece, right? Of like maybe it's coming out, maybe it's just like leftover trauma and burnout, but like just like even doing simple emails or like responding to like students or grading and stuff, like it feels like such a like overwhelming task to like even turn towards it, let alone like do any of it. I'm like, once I start doing it, like it's fine, but every time it's just like, oh my God, I'd rather literally do anything else.
Oh.
Which then like, I don't know, like leads to anxiety, and then like not doing anything, like doing other things when you know that you should be doing something is really like a different flavor of awful. And I've just been like stuck in that, whirlpool or habit or whatever for what feels like a really long time. And I'd say that's probably like the biggest, source of suffering that I've got going on right now.
Ah, yeah. I think I could say some stuff related to the person. This is not a radical
Yeah, yeah,
thing,
please.
but for the person, so do you have to answer those emails?
I mean, I've, I don't. I've gotten away for like 2 years with like really not answering a bunch of emails, and like it always works out and it's always fine. I just feel bad about myself for it. Like I'm
Okay.
like letting people down.
Yeah. Yeah, because to be honest, I wouldn't force yourself to constantly do things you just don't want to do.
Mhm.
It just doesn't help you and it doesn't really help others anyways. That's my sense. Because I mean, the more you do what you want, and I say it like that, but it's not even you wanting it. It's just
Mhm.
a want that's there. So um, you can't help that. It's just what's there.
Mhm.
Because if I see how I live now, or how this just happens, is like there's not even much of a, like there can be a lot of thoughts, but there's not much of a thought of I should or shouldn't do this. The
Mhm.
body just moves. It just does stuff. There's thoughts, there's feelings. It's not attached, it's not owned by anything. So
Mhm.
movement happens, doing happens, and then there's almost not even a remembering of what was done because like um
Yeah, yeah.
nothing is claimed by anyone, but it does feel like nothing's forced. There's no one here to force anything, but I can't force anything anymore,
Mhm.
or rarely. I can't do anything that is like I don't want to do it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I would say most people, if they just lived like that, like suffering would probably diminish a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel like I had something else, but um, yeah. I mean, what do you think of that answer?
I think it's spot on. I think it really resonates. I think, yeah, I guess it feels like it's a lot of fear that's been keeping me from actually doing that. Um, Fear and maybe a interesting, like a narrative that like I don't know what I would actually want to do or what would actually make me happy, which I don't know if that I doubt that that's actually the case, but I think that I've had that narrative like through grad school for so long of like, like, oh, I've been doing this, doing what I have to do for so long that I've sort of lost sight of like what would actually make me happy. And then, the seeking of like, oh, I got to figure out what would actually make me happy. And then like, go do that. And like, I think that's a whole different thing than what you're talking about or what you're pointing to or expressing. And um, yeah, I think that I guess in this moment, it feels like that answer like really resonates and like there's still a lot of that sort of narrative on top of it. But
Yeah, like but I have
yeah,
to, or
yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
um, yeah, yeah. The apparent person here too struggled with that probably the most.
Hmm.
Just constantly doing things that other people wanted, or what society said was good,
Mhm.
or what would make her more accepted in society and by parents and stuff.
Mhm.
And yeah, she was very, very out of touch with just basic wants.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, so it could take some apparent time to just like allow yourself to slowly just do what you want, even if it's like really small stuff.
Mhm.
And it can be painful to not be as productive in the old way, you know,
Mhm. Mhm.
because you might get a sense of identity from certain things that you do, and uh, a certain sense of value, I guess, from them. So yeah, it could be a little blow for the identity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly, I haven't been very productive at all for the past
Okay.
decade.
Yeah.
At least, I mean, that's probably a lie, but I think the criterion by which I assume productivity is like all the things that I don't like to do, right? Like, oh, it's only work if it's makes me feel bad.
Yeah, yeah. I totally get that. Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is hard. It is hard because I do feel like this society, which doesn't even exist. It's not real. but, but this
That's true.
parent society will really, really confuse the person, and the person tries to mold themselves into society, which is built on a false, illusory sense of self, which is the, I guess you could say, the ego. It's very like me oriented, and it's all about the me, all about enhancing the me, making the me look better, being the best me possible, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so it can feel like a what's it called, there's a conflict within, you
Mhm,
know.
mhm. Thanks. I think that really helped.
Hmm. Yeah. And every apparent person is so drastically different that, you're just having one, I guess it's a viewpoint or whatever.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
uh like this person had to really drop out of society,
Mhm,
and it was painful. It was
mhm.
painful to be so irrelevant. It really was. And
Yeah,
I was uh, uh, letting my parents down.
yeah,
I was losing touch with all my friends.
yeah.
Uh I yeah. And not that you have to do that. I think this character was extreme.
Mhm.
She just wanted an out,
Yeah.
so it was kind of like an escape too.
Mhm.
um but there came a point, mm, I mean, before hearing this message too, but there came a point where it was just like, I don't give a shit anymore. who cares,
Yeah.
who cares if I'm irrelevant, as long as I'm not happy, but as long as there's contentment here, does it really matter? I don't give a shit anymore if people look at me like I'm crazy or weird or a dropout.
Yeah.
Um, but it took there's no time, but it took some years to get to that point.
Mhm. No, that really resonates. I think I'm a little bit at that place of like, fuck this, fuck everything, fuck, like, fuck it. Um,
Yeah. When did you graduate and when did you start teaching?
I graduated 2019. Yeah, yeah, 2019. So like a semester before the pandemic shut everything down. So that's when I started teaching like full time, but I'd been teaching classes as a grad student for like 4 or 5 years before then. Because I just love teaching. I love like being in front of students. Everything about teaching, I'm all in for it. And I think that that's a little bit why I stayed so long in grad school, because I was like, oh, I'll just like keep teaching. This is great. This is fine.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't teach like that now?
I do. So now I'm teaching, yeah, I teach like 3 classes a semester. And that's it. And
That's
it's really like academia is a whole pyramid scheme, and like each level up, you get paid a lot more for a lot less work. So I'm getting paid like 3 times as much for probably less than half the amount of work that I was doing as a grad student, which is really nice and really
wow.
objectively cushy.
Yeah.
But
That's nice.
yeah. So it just, I think, also goes to show that like the angst of it is not necessarily actually related to the objectivity, the objective truth of the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, you can't help how you feel also.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think I it really resonates. Like I think there's still a lot of like not wanting to let people down, or like other people's expectations, like parents and my partner were engaged and like thinking of like starting a family, and it's really easy to get like wound back up into that. I think it's just basically fear of the future, fear of stability, money, all that, which is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, and you don't necessarily have to do like what I did. It's just
Mhm,
like um ultimately it doesn't really matter.
mhm,
It's like that fear. How should I put this? Mm, yeah, that fear is just what it is. It's like I feel like it's just natural to have that kind of fear. And yeah, it's just what's happening. I don't
mhm,
want to say it's not a big deal because it feels like a big deal for the person. It's more like that's that's perfection. That's
mhm.
like as shitty as it can feel, it's like that's it. That's it. It can look like anything and it is anything. And that fear is actually nothing. It's coming from nothing and it is nothing, appearing as this mysterious energy that we call fear that has no real meaning. I mean, it has relative meaning, but ultimately it's just like poof, like everything. It's really shocking how everything is nothing. Everything. Like even the appearance of the person is nothing, and yet it can feel like a very substantial I'm here, I exist, I have a life. So it's so amazing that that can happen. And then it's so amazing that it can spontaneously disappear. And then it's like it was never there in the first place because it was all this miraculous like construction of this energetic thing that had different components mysteriously added to it, and then it became heavier and heavier. But it was so totally illusory, so totally nothing. Yeah. And sometimes it can feel like a sick joke. I remember thinking, I think, I don't know if it was when I heard this message,
Mhm,
but I had accumulated so much spiritual knowledge,
mhm,
and I was a spiritual person. That
mhm,
was my identity now.
mhm,
And that was it. I had a future. I was thinking, I know certain things. I'm good at certain things. I'm going to teach this kind of stuff. And
mhm.
then when I heard this message, it was like earth shattering, and like it was quite horrifying to like lose everything, the
Mhm.
past, future, all hopes and dreams, and all, you don't lose memories, but in a way you kind of do, because all the relationships aren't really there.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. I was going somewhere with it, but then I just lost my train of
All good, all good. Yeah, I think luckily for me, like I haven't had a lot of like horror come up around this, or like not even, I don't know if I can say this, but like not even a lot of fear around it either. It's more like frustration that it's not feeling that way at the moment. And like, um,
frustration that it's not feeling horrible, or
no, frustration that it's not feeling like what I remember it felt like during that awakening experience.
oh, okay.
Right, right,
Yeah, that's also this.
right. Yep. Yeah, yep.
Yeah, no escaping this.
I know.
You can't get further away or closer. It's always just this. Yeah.
I really appreciate you.
Hmm. Thanks. Yeah. I'm glad you have teaching though. It's nice that you enjoy.
Yeah, 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 me too. Me too. Me too. It's really, I think it like it scratches the like performance itch that I have. Like I like doing the whole like dog and pony show, and like it's like exciting and energizing, and like seeing students like connect with that I think is fun for me. And then like I think I get a lot out of like coming up with understandable ways to explain concepts. Like that feels like a very creative process for me. Like what's a metaphor that I can use to like see if this lands, right? And then um I also like I really like being like the person to sort of blow their minds and like make them rethink preconceived notions around things. I'll like, yeah, just like I remember, or not remember, but like still when I get it, when you get that like insight where things just sort of like click, it's just like, just like dopamine straight to the brain. Like it's just like so good. And like being able to like get a vicarious hit of that like through someone else,
Hmm.
that's really, really nice.
Hmm. That's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There are certain things that, I mean, since the memories or the memory of being a person, it does fade. It does seem to fade kind of quickly. So how it feels right now is just what it is. And yeah, no past or future. And but there is like, the human is like so amazing. The person is so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it really does feel like it's not all that bad. It's really not. And yes, there is a lot of suffering,
Mhm.
but but the types of things like being in love with another person, like having a dream of the future, like those things, it can also produce a lot of suffering, but like the fact that that's even possible, that an illusory sense of self can so believe in those things and like relish them, and um it's it's quite amazing. Yeah.
Does loneliness ever arise?
Loneliness. um
I guess maybe I'm thinking in the sense of like, you know, other apparent people or like other apparent humans. I don't know, having those, like being able to have those, relish those sort of fantasies.
yeah, loneliness in relation to what I just said, like without having, yeah. um so I don't know if this is a character trait, because this person was very okay with being by herself, and
Mhm.
she really liked solitude,
Mhm.
so she was really used to it, and loneliness would still arise then for the person. um to be honest, loneliness doesn't arise, but I don't know if it's because I'm in contact with a lot of people now.
Mhm.
So ever since the apparent thing that never happened, uh yeah, I've just been connecting more with people, which has been really nice.
Sweet.
I guess loneliness can arise though. I mean, why not?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It just wouldn't last long, I don't think.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
It could be like remnants, because it's so clear that no one is here to be separate from anything or not whole.
Mhm.
This is wholeness. So there is this sense of like okayness with everything. So any emotion that arises is part of this.
Mhm.
It's encompassed by this okayness in a way.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So it doesn't matter what feeling is here, even pain in the body. It's like, uh, again, I don't know if there's a lot of pain in the body, there might be a lot of resistance, but
Mhm.
even that resistance wouldn't be resisted. It would just be what it is.
Right.
Because, yeah, I don't want to say anything for sure, because I have a sense that everything can arise depending on the circumstances.
Mhm.
Um, but they're, because I do talk to some people who, because this is so spontaneous, um, they can have strong remnants of extreme low self-esteem or not liking themselves. That can be very strong. So there can still be a sense of discontentment in a way. It's just not identified with. So there's still a lightness to it, but the conditioning is so strong that it still makes a difference in that, preferences are still here. So the preference to be happy can still be there. There can be the resistance to the not liking of the self that isn't even there. I think it would just be a not liking, just the discontentment, not of a self, because no one would be there, but uh yeah, even like something is wrong can even arise, even though no one's there, and there's no separation at all. This is home. This is it. Yeah. So in a way, like the human is fully free to be a human in all of its colors. Yeah. And this person, this character can cry like still a lot. But it's not even uh it was ironic because there was a sense like this isn't so different from joy.
Yeah.
It
Huh.
was just this grief and a lot of tears, and even that, it wasn't enjoyed, but it was like there was such an okayness with it, and it was just what was happening. Yeah, so that was a bit weird to be like, wow, this isn't that different from joy and laughter. It's just energy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that really resonates.
Hmm.
I'm I'm having a lot of memories come up of like what that felt like when I had that awakening, and noticing that like relegating it to the past and relegating to a memory is like a subtle form of like not letting it be here now, or still sort of like, you know, apparent disconnect or something.
Yeah. Yeah. To not to me, but when you say that, that sounds amazing. That's like, wow, that can happen. Yeah, it's just miraculous. This illusory effect is like, fucking hell, how is that possible?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that is nice is that this character used to feel extremely guilty
Mm.
about her parents' happiness.
Hmm.
So if they weren't happy, it didn't really, it wasn't just that I was making them unhappy. If they were just unhappy, uh, I guess I felt a duty, like it was my responsibility or something. That's gone. There's like an allowing for whatever arises there. If it's sadness,
Yeah,
it's just what's happening, and it's there's an okayness with that.
yeah, yeah.
And again, that doesn't mean that since there's conditioning here, um, a preference here for people to be happy.
Mhm.
You know, something might happen, like an an apparent nice act might happen, but there's no agenda to it. It just happens, and then um, they're completely allowed to be exactly. It's just what it is, and uh, yeah, like the person here used to, yeah, be a lot in the past, thinking about parents, like, oh, I should really be home and like being a good daughter.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, now it's like sometimes there's days that go by that I don't think about them. And there's no guilt. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And then when there is a thought, then I can contact them, and it's nice because it's wanted, you know.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, that really resonates here too. I think
Mm,
similar conditioning or similar things arising for this one.
mm, yeah. Yeah. The no responsibility thing is nice.
Yeah.
There is no
Yeah. Yeah.
work. No
Yeah.
one is responsible for anything.
Mhm.
Everything you've done in the past, like you were never there. No one ever did that. Like you never hurt anyone, no one ever hurt you. That's all just what was happening. It's freedom. But no one gets free.
Yeah.
There's just freedom. And there's always been freedom. There is only freedom. That might not be the best word because it does make the me want freedom.
Mhm. But there can't be any words that wouldn't make the me want something.
That's true. Can't help but want.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's so fascinating. Like the me feels like it's lacking. It feels separate. It feels not whole. And then it goes on this apparent long journey, could be short, but this amazing, convoluted journey searching for wholeness or healing or more love, more acceptance. It's amazing that kind of journey is possible, and like time is so real. There's actual space, there's actual location, there's a center, and everything is happening to a person. The world revolves around the me. You create your life.
It's pretty fucking wild.
It's wild. It's crazy. But truly what's happening is nothing. Nothing is happening. There's nothing here appearing as what we call a human body, but it's nothing. Simultaneously, it's nothing, everythinging. And there's evenness to everything. No location, no center. No difference between inside and outside. That completely gone.
So then this nothingness, does it have a quality? Does it have no qualities, or are neither of those?
Quality. I don't think that can be known.
Fair.
It's just total emptiness, total nothingness. And that's like terrifying for the me to really be non-existent. It can't be imagined. This nothingness can't really describe it. It's not even a feeling. It's an unknown. Nothing can describe it. No word can touch it. Even the silence is not it.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing can know it. And then when you look at apparent things, it's clear that it's nothing. You're looking at nothing. I like saying that it's total oblivion. It demolishes everything.
Yeah.
And yet everything still appears, but everything is destroyed in a way. It's like death and birth all at the same time. for infinity. Yeah. The no time and space thing is trippy.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's total aliveness. It's vibrant. This everythingness that's nothing. It's like so fully like wow. It's really like wow. Yeah. Total demolition. It's like it's total death, and yet it's stunning and yeah, indescribable. So this isn't happening. Nothing's happening.
It's happening.
Like if it can be described, which really does diminish every word, really just it really can't touch it. It can't come close at all.
Mhm.
But if it's described, it's like it's total nothingness appearing as what we call a body. Thoughts are nothing. They're appearing from nothing and they are nothing, and yet they have meaning, but they're total emptiness. Emotions are totally empty. It's all energy. Thoughts are energy. Emotions are energy. This that we call air is energy. And it's not even energy. It's undescribable. It's boundless. It has no edge, no beginning, no end. It's crazy. And one thing that's really trippy too is that there's no difference here whether this body is asleep or awake,
That's trippy.
because it's the same.
Yeah.
Everything is so even because there's no one here to have an experience. There's no one here waking up or going to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
It's all just what it is. Night and day is the same thing. There can be an apparent brightness during the day, but it's the same thing. There's no difference. Yeah, it's shocking.
It is. It's what's coming up for me is a lot of questions around that, right? Well, okay, like I want to know that. Um,
You can ask questions.
is it? Thanks. Is so. Is there an experience of sleep for you?
No one here is experience. It's the end of experience. Yeah, end of experiencer and experiencing. It's just what's happening. It's annoying that that is all that can be said. It's just what's happening.
Yeah.
Um, but it seems like it's one of the closest ways of attempting to describe this.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's such neutrality to everything, and it's it's also ridiculous to say it doesn't really matter if the body dies or not, because there's no one here owning
Mhm.
a life or the body.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that there won't be grief or horror or terror or not wanting to die.
Mhm.
All of that can appear, but it wouldn't really matter.
Mhm. I think I had like a conceptualization of that that was still sort of like stuck in time, right? Like of, oh, there must be this awareness that exists apart from the body, that even if the body dies, that sort of awareness will still have some, I don't know, quality or identity or ability to be there without the body still being there. But now I'm guessing that it's like it's so outside of that that doesn't even make sense anymore.
Hmm. So that can be part of the story.
Uh-huh.
The thing is, I can't say anything for sure. So that could happen. Anything can happen.
Mhm.
But awareness, or if you want to call it the soul or something, it's part of the story.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's part of the illusion.
Right, right. It's still a location.
Yeah, yeah. It's still it's kind of an entity of sorts, or a
Mhm.
subject
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
moves through time,
Mhm.
has an after death.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so it could be totally possible.
Mhm.
Nothing can be said for sure. This is total unknowing, and it can be fun. And it can feel nice for the person too, to know like there's something after death.
Mhm.
Yeah, so there's nothing right or wrong with that at all.
Mhm.
Um,
But
like
it is
I
still in the
feel
realm of the person.
the realm, yeah, it's still in the story. It's still in time.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's already just this, so it doesn't really matter. And this character can still have fun with like past lives, and yeah, it's just fun. It's like entertaining.
Mhm.
And is it true? I don't know.
Yeah.
In the past, the person felt it was very true and
Mhm.
felt there was some healing also involved. Was it true? Was it all beliefs? Was it all a, a psychological or subconscious? I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And on the level, not the level, but for the person, so many things can seem to help, can seem to heal, can seem to just make it feel better
Mhm.
or make sense of things. And like, why not? Yeah, the way I see it is like this illusion is part of the play, you know?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Why not play?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
And also part of the play is trying to run away from the play,
Mhm.
trying to get to enlightenment, which doesn't exist, will never happen for the person. But yeah, it's all part of the play. Yeah. So there's really nothing wrong. There's also nothing right, but I kind of like to say that there's nothing wrong, because the person can't help but be in resistance to a lot of things,
Mhm.
to life in general.
Mhm. Mhm.
And also there's nothing wrong with being against life, to being in resistance to that. That's also just what's happening, also part of the play. You can feel free to ask more questions.
Thanks. I mean, it's nice. I think the longer that I'm sitting here with you, the less questions are arising, the more that sort of like the person's settling down, which is nice because that has allowed me to recognize when there are questions that are still sort of like popping up. I mean, really the only throbbing question is just like, when is it going to happen and why is it not here yet? But that's, you know, that's it too, and that's fine, and that's not it. And being, I mean, the frustration of like knowing that and not, and feeling this way still, and yeah, yeah, there's, it's you very quickly get to the point where you can't say anything or ask anything or do anything.
It's so clear that there's no answer. There's no way to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't get this. The me, this is, I wouldn't say that it's hopeless. I think it's neither hopeful nor hopeless.
Mhm.
That's it. This is inclusive of that. So if hope arises, if hopelessness arises, that's also just what's happening. It doesn't mean that you'll get closer or further away from this. Um, yeah. Yeah, it actually doesn't make a difference if the me is gone or not.
Mm, mm.
It's the same.
Yeah.
And there's also really no telling whether this apparent world that really doesn't exist, whether it'll be a better place or not without me's. There's really no saying.
Mm.
You have no idea. Because I mean, this is a concept, but there's just so much diversity, and it seems as if there's never just light.
Yeah.
It's always dark and light.
Mhm.
So yeah, will it make a tremendous difference? Will suffering end? Well, I don't even know. I don't even know if I can call it suffering. If the me isn't there, does suffering happen? Like, I don't know if I can call it suffering because, but there can be tremendous pain.
Mhm.
There can be resistance. No one is owning that, but there can still be a lot of pain. Yeah. So this also isn't about like helping people get to liberation,
Mhm.
because there is no difference. This message has no point. It's pointless. Well, it can have relative value, but it's really meaningless as well.
Mhm.
This is for fun. It's also just part of the play. And really, there's also no difference between speakers and teachers. Because in a way, even though the message is very different, we're doing the same thing. We're still playing.
Mhm. Mhm. It is very nice to be playing here with you in this format.
Mm. Yeah. So what do you say? Maybe we can get back in contact. Yeah, whenever.
I would love that. I
Yeah.
love that. You're East Coast USA?
Mhm.
I'm in Providence.
Providence, Rhode Island.
Mhm.
Nice. Cool. So same time zone. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Cool.
Makes it easy.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be nice to get back in touch.
Yeah, I'd like that a lot.
Mm. Cool.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks, Suzanne. This was perfect.
Yeah. It was super fun.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, yeah. I the the more the more apparent time progresses, like the less filter I have. And I just like have there's very little desire to like hold stuff back and almost no ability to. So my classes are very interesting.
Mm.
They're very much like, hey guys, like, here's what I think, here's what's wrong with everything, here's everything. Like, don't tattle on me because they could definitely fire me for some of the stuff I'm saying, but like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah. Those are the best teachers, you know?
Yeah, I think, if I need to justify myself, I can come up with a pedagogical reason for affiliation with students leading to better outcomes or whatever, but that's all a secondary justification. It's just, just this, just, presentation as it is.
Nice. Cool. All right. Well, have a good rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks. You too. I hope, I don't know, hope things go well. Hope life is good for you.
Yeah, you too.